Solo Leveling, Episode 4, Through Blood and Shadow. The air reeked of death. In the darkness of the abandoned subway station, only the low growls of beasts echoed through the concrete corridors. Jinwoo stood alone, chest heaving, sweat trickling from his brow, his once white shirt now clinging to his blood-slicked skin. The shattered remains of his dagger lay near his feet, broken, useless. Around him, the bodies of goblins he had just slain littered the floor like scattered refuse. But the respite was brief. A new presence emerged from the shadows. A steel-fanged wolf lunged at him, eyes glowing with cold, primal hunger. Jinwoo's heart clenched. His body screamed in exhaustion, but something deep within him flickered, a whisper of instinct, honed through pain, loss, and survival. Move. Jinwoo ducked low, faster than he expected. The beast's jaws snapped shut where his throat had just been. The agility, unreal, unnatural, felt like a gift from something far beyond human comprehension. He twisted, his body responding with perfect precision, and drove his knee into the wolf's ribs. A wet crack followed, and the beast was flung back like a rag doll. Breathless, Jinwoo stared at his hands. This power, it wasn't his, was it? But it was. The system, the strange interface etched into his soul, had given it to him. Every drop of sweat and blood was being transmuted into strength, but even so, his bare hands would not be enough against beasts like these. He turned to run, eyes scanning for anything he could use. Then it hit him. Inventory. A screen appeared before him, invisible to the world but real to him. Within it, a sword, rusty and crude but sharp, sat idle. The sword Kim Sang-shik had used back in the double dungeon. With trembling fingers, he summoned it. The blade appeared in his hands, humming with silent promise. As he turned, two more steel-fanged wolves burst from the gloom. The first charged head-on. Jinwoo gritted his teeth and met it with a swing. The blade connected, but the beast's jaw clamped down on the edge. Snarling, Jinwoo poured all his strength into the swing. With a shriek, the blade cut through, and the wolf collapsed. The second beast, wary, growled once, then fled into the shadows. He was alone again. The silence after the battle felt unreal. His lungs burned, his hands trembled. Blood, not just the beast's, but his own, dripped from shallow gashes on his arms and legs. Still, he lived. He checked his stats. They had risen. Strength, agility, perception. He was changing, not just surviving. Evolving. Jinwoo opened the loot window. No magic crystals. Instead, gear, weapons, and a teleportation stone. But he didn't want to leave. Not yet. Somewhere deeper in this hellish place, the dungeon boss waited. And so, sword in hand, he stepped forward. Outside, beneath the fractured sky, Li Ju-hee stood frozen. The voice from the Hunters Association rang in her ears. A dungeon break. The gate had ruptured. The monsters had spilled into the world. She remembered Jinwoo, his bloodied body, his hollow eyes, his silent determination. Guilt coiled around her throat. She had said no. She had refused their request. But now, others would bleed. Others would die. And so she picked up her gear and whispered a prayer. She would return. Deep underground, Jinwoo's boots echoed down the long stone stairway. With every step, the darkness thickened. It wasn't just the absence of light, but the presence of something older, deeper, something waiting. He descended into a vast sewer-like expanse, eerily quiet. But then, ripples. The water stirred, a sound like thunder, a rush of water. And then, with no warning, a mass slammed into him, flinging his body like a leaf in a storm. He crashed into a wall, vision spinning, ribs aching. His blade dropped from his hand, and there it was, a snake, not just any serpent, but a monstrosity, longer than a train, armored in blue scales that shimmered like wet steel. Its eyes gleamed with venomous hatred. Blue Venom-Fanged Kasaka, the dungeon boss. Jinwoo grabbed his sword and lunged, aiming for the belly. Sparks flew as the blade bounced off its scales. No damage. Kasaka's tail coiled, then struck. Jinwoo flew, crashing into the water below. He rolled, barely dodging the beast's fangs as it lunged. Then, a massive crash. A derailed subway train hurled toward him like a missile. He dove, barely escaping. His mind screamed. He was outmatched, outarmed, weak. And then, like lightning splitting the sky, a memory. Song Chi-yul, the veteran hunter. A warm smile, a firm hand on his shoulder. You've been called the weakest, but even the weakest can rise. Prove them wrong. Tears mingled with blood. He rose, broken sword in hand. He charged. Kasaka met him in a clash of fury and steel. The blade shattered. He didn't care. With a roar, Jinwoo leapt onto the serpent's neck, gripping its scales, driving his fists against its skull, his muscles screaming with every movement. The beast thrashed. Jinwoo clung on like death itself. Then, with a final strangled yell, he dug his fingers between its scales, found a gap, and pulled with all his might. A crack. A shudder. Then silence. Kasaka slumped. Lifeless. The body dissolved. A dagger shimmered into existence. Kasaka's venom fang. A weapon born of death and triumph. He had won. The world flickered. The dungeon dissolved. Jinwoo found himself once again standing on the cracked tiles of the Hapjeong subway station. The silence of the real world felt alien. He walked up the stairs, sword in hand, clothes drenched in blood and sewage. A soldier at the exit blinked in shock. "What are you doing here?" "You shouldn't," but then paused. "Wait, you're a hunter?" Jinwoo nodded numbly. The soldier sighed. "The dungeon broke. Most of the beasts were killed, but there's still one, a big one. North platform." Jinwoo didn't reply, but inside, he could feel it. A new sense gifted by the system, perception beyond the human norm. He sensed the beast. Crowds gathered behind barricades, cameras flashing. Soldiers barked orders. On the battlefield, chaos reigned. A massive stone golem, the size of a two-story building, stood unharmed amidst a broken squad of E and D rank hunters. Their attacks bounced off its granite skin like water off stone. Among them, Juhi. Her hands trembled as she tried to channel healing magic, but her mind reeled, paralyzed by memories of the double dungeon. The blood, the screams, the smell. She couldn't do it. The golem lifted a massive arm, preparing to crush a fallen tanker. Cries rang out, and then, like a whisper from the shadows, something moved. Behind the barricade, unnoticed, Jinwoo crouched in an alley. He watched. That thing, it was D rank at most, weaker than Kasaka. He pulled the broken sword from his inventory. It had served him before. It would again. With a calm breath, he took aim. He remembered the weight of Kasaka's neck in his grip, the blood, the rage. And then he threw. The blade sliced through the air like a comet and struck the golem's eye, a roar, a shockwave. The beast staggered, crumbling to its knees. Seizing the moment, the hunters lunged. Cracks spread across the golem's chest. A hammer crushed its core. Silence. It was over. Later, as dust settled and soldiers secured the scene, a lone tanker stared at the debris. He had seen it, a broken sword glinting in the rubble. "Who?" he asked a soldier. The man shrugged. "Some hunter at the back. Disappeared. High rank? No idea. But that throw," the soldier shook his head, "it wasn't human." In a nearby alley, Jinwoo pulled up his hood and disappeared into the crowd. His body ached, but his spirit, it burned. Stronger. "I'm getting stronger." Behind him, Juhi turned, eyes wide. She had seen him, or thought she had. Her heart whispered a single question. Was that Jinwoo? To be continued.